at my house. My neighbors would say I'm sloppy. My mom says I'm kind of sloppy. I got a lot of books, a lot of ideas. This is a phenomenal read. If y'all have the chance to pick up, I got 2 books that I'm going to recommend tonight. This one's called Give and Take, and it's by Adam Grant, and he's a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. And it's about how we act in social situations. And he breaks people down, he's a social scientist, into 3 categories: givers, takers, and matchers. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but when we think about how can we give, this book really breaks down, and the whole idea is why, and I'll just read you the tagline: why helping others will drive our success. And I think that theme in 2018, where people are in echo chambers online, we're not listening to each other, we're very self-centered. This theme resonates so much right now. And again, it's really heavy on the data, which shouldn't deter you. There's a ton of footnotes. You don't have to read them, but it is a phenomenal case study on what we can do when we decide to help and how we look at each other in social situations. And again, that's one of the themes. How do we help others?
Brian, who's the author, Adam?
Who's on? Adam Grant. And the last poem that I'm going to read tonight is called The Giver and the Taker. I'm actually going to send this book to Adam Grant and just say thank you. I've been spending 3 or 4 years in this book, and you can't just write. You have to read. Just like if you're a musician, you can't just spend the whole time making your own music. You got to listen to other music to try and gather some inspiration and learn more about your craft. So I was reading this and I loved it. I guess this will be a good time to say the second book. This book is the first book on my resource page because I had to keep a resource page. It's called Evicted. It is relatively new. It's about a professor at Harvard. He wrote it. It's called Poverty and Profit in the American City. Again, phenomenal read. If you look at it, kind of dense. It's his thesis. But it's about, he followed people in poverty within Milwaukee. He was doing his graduate work at Madison, Wisconsin. And he wrote a phenomenal piece, an in-depth look on poverty and the different faces that it takes. I will leave these books up here along with my books. And like I said, I have some literature. There's some literature here on mental health, and there's some literature here on the media. It's free. Take it. Learn. Whatever. I'm going to read the quick bio from this, though, because I think it's that important. So I did include a resource page here because there's a lot more to learn. My book is just poetry and photography. It's a way we think. But if you want the data, I tried to give you outlets in which you can find that. So I'll quickly read this one. I wrote this. Matthew Desmond won the 2017 Pulitzer Prize winner in general nonfiction. After the economic crash in 2008, Desmond followed 8 families in Milwaukee and documented how they managed to keep a roof over their heads. Extremely detailed, Evicted is the most comprehensive piece of literature that I've read on poverty. So if you really want to learn more, take a look at this book. He just spoke at Santa Barbara 3 weeks ago at UCSB for the Arts and Lecture Series. Unfortunately, I couldn't go. I actually had to do a poetry reading over at the library. But a phenomenal read. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do 2 more pieces, and it's about mental health. And then I'm actually passing the mic off to my buddy because it's good to bring other artists in here. It's not just about me, it's about the community, it's about getting other voices heard. So I'll read 2 more, and it's about mental health. So homelessness has 4 main components: mental health, lack of a family/support system, substance abuse, and just hard times. You fall on hard times. But mental health seems to be the biggest one. And unfortunately, we are cutting funds for mental health. And you probably wonder why there's so many people that you might consider crazy or a lunatic. I actually just shared this story with Solange, wherever Solange is running. Yeah, Solange is here. I had a weird experience at a laundromat. So I go to laundry Midtown Ventura, right by the bench warmer. And I had this lady, and I put the book out already, and I was very interested in mental health. And this lady, she stared at me when I first walked into the laundromat. And whatever, I didn't think too much about it. Put my clothes in, went home, made some breakfast, came back. And this lady's still staring at me. She's almost like piercing through my soul. And I'm not going to say the language that she used, but once I took my clothes from the laundry to the dryer, she started yelling at me. You raped me. You've been following me from bus stop to bus stop. You have access to my bank account. And she is making a scene. She's screaming at me, and I'm sitting there like, it's 11 o'clock in the morning. I just kind of woke up, and I'm getting verbally kind of assaulted, and I felt so bad for this lady because now people are looking at me, and I'm like, man, I got all these collar shirts here. People, and this lady was 30 years older than me, so no, she said to say it bluntly, she said I raped her back in high school. And I was like, whoa. But luckily, I'm 28. She was like 50. So the logic didn't match up. But when people came up to me, they're like, "Oh, you okay? Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." I get worse from students. And not like that, but students give me a lot of crap, man. I gotta be on my toes. I can handle someone heckling me. But I was like, I'm fine. What I felt bad was, it was for this lady. Man, this lady went back onto the streets. There's obviously something wrong. She's got PTSD, man, and it broke my heart because people ask me for help. They're like, "Do you need help?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm good." She needs help. And she's back on the streets. And she's not alone. You've seen a lot of people out there, and it's sad. There's a lot of data to support it. I had to do my research. So I got 2 articles. One is from KQED in San Francisco, and they give you like a year-by-year really breakdown. But mental illness kind of hit the fan in the 50s and the 60s. And I'm gonna just, I don't want to butcher this, so I'm gonna actually grab the data. But what we see is that mental illness in 1954. So I guess I'm gonna actually teach a little bit. In 1954, they found a drug. And this was the first time that an antipsychotic drug was used successfully. And the government's like, sweet, we got a drug. We could probably drug these people up, get them out of the mental hospital, save some money for the government, and then we'll be on our way. And that was kind of one of the bigger mistakes, is the drug did not fix it all. The drug kind of contained it, but you know what happens when people go off their meds. The number of patients inside public mental hospitals nationwide peaked in 1955. And that peak was 560,000 people were in mental health hospitals throughout the United States of America. That was the peak. In 1959, the number of patients in California state mental hospitals peaked. And that number is 37,000. Now, the popular misconception is that this is Ronald Reagan's fault. Technically, it's not, but Ronald Reagan did not do a lot to help. He actually made things a lot worse. But it did not start with him. This guy's name is Edmund G. Brown. Do I have that right? I don't know. Yeah, that sounds about right. So, like I said, in the peak, it was 37,000. When Reagan took office in the mid to late 60s, that number came down to 22,000. So before Reagan came in, they were getting people out because mental health costs money, and the state was running out of money. So they got people out. But then when Reagan came in, and we see this a lot in education, he cut more funds, let more people go. So these already depleted hospitals were even more depleted, and he got more people onto the streets. So this was a problem that had started before him, but continued throughout the 60s and the 70s. The biggest thing that I learned is that President John F. Kennedy, his goal, and he was the one that really took initiative, he tried to create the Community Mental Health Act. And what that was he tried to set up a federal government level of nationwide mental health care systems. But he wanted that money to flow directly into local communities, which is always it's about communities. Problem is, a month after he signed this act, he got assassinated. And he never saw this through. And people did not have the same vision that he may have had, or maybe that same passion. So it got kicked around, one thing led to another, and when Reagan took office, Jimmy Carter had just signed this bill back into existence, and Reagan nixed it. He wanted to make it back to a state level. And now you're seeing states trying to figure this out. Homelessness is a bit of a debacle because there's no consistent or nationwide network. Not to say that that would make it better, because homelessness in California looks different than homelessness in New Jersey, as does it look different in New York or maybe in Florida. But if you have a comprehensive network and some sort of cohesion, it makes it easier to help, and it makes it easier to understand what's going on. And that's a quick 2-minute facts on mental health. Yeah.
Yes.
Alright, like I said, I got 2. I'm actually going to read you some poetry on mental health. Shocker. But I had too many papers up here, so I kind of don't know where oh, here it is. Alright. Alright, we're back. Alright, this one's called Can You Blame Me? Actually, no, it's not. I just read that one. This one's called Mayhem in the Mind. And it's super All right, I'm gonna say it's super depressing. So, like I said, I walk a lot, and I walk a lot throughout downtown Ventura. They closed the footbridge here in Ventura. So the footbridge connects California. California takes you all the way down to the beach. You go over. That footbridge connects you to the neighborhoods. But in September, they closed it. I don't know what the hell they did. It still looks dirty. It looks almost exactly the same. My guess is they were trying to keep and get a better count of the homeless because it's a quick access to the beach, to the neighborhoods. So they closed it. But before they did that, I was walking home one night and I saw a backpack. And the backpack was dumped out. There is crap everywhere. And there's notebooks and there's all these different ideas. And I saw this. Now, I'm going to leave this up here because there's no name on this. But it was clear to me, no one was around. I figured out that this girl got robbed or she lost her mind. She couldn't find something and dumped her whole backpack out on the ground. And I found this note. And I read this note. And this note is intense. And it's almost like it's a journal. And I spent the whole day in Palermo's. And I felt like I lost my mind trying to put myself in her shoes. And it's dated, it's kind of weird, it's dated March 29, 2017. So it was almost a year ago. And I'm going to kind of read my take on it, but this poem is called Mayhem in the Mind. Please God, end this for us. Blessed be in your name. It's not often you get an inside look at a mind that's damaged and disturbed. But walking over the footbridge connecting the edge of downtown to the beach, I found a backpack rifled through, ideas discarded. Impossible to know the culprit, yet what was clear from her writing was her struggle. Thoughts written in beautifully punctuated prose. Her cursive contained a multitude of references to religion, all in an attempt to be rescued from the world she's in, full of sin. Now she's sunk into depression. I'm begging, please God, please, kill me and take me from my misery. For 4 years come May 26th, I no longer exist, going through toil, torment, and treason. 4 years with a lingering experience that continuously eats at her sanity like a small leak that drips daily and finally bursts through. Her pain has been pent up and then put on paper. Writing as a release valve, a therapy I endorse. With no idea who she is or where she lives, I too talk to God and send her a prayer through a poem. Sweet. All right, last one. Can everybody hear me out there? I am so loud, but all right, cool. Am I talking too loud, Julie, or too fast? Sweet. I feel like I got a good pace. All right. I graded speeches today, so I'm really key right now on tone, on pace, on volume, all that fun stuff. Sebi gave a speech last year, so was Sixten, and Dre, you were 2 years ago. So this one actually came from, I'm still looking at Raul, it came from an interaction I saw at Palermo's. But I had been thinking about it for a while because I had seen people kind of freak out, like I said happened to me in the laundromat, and I look at the individuals who are getting freaked out on, and I wonder, what do we do? As a community, what do we do when people in public freak out on you? And it's going to take a little bit of time. And it's going to take ability to listen, to calm down, and to just think. So this one's called In the Face of Anger, and it's what we do when we see a lot of that energy coming towards us. Dealing with those who have a mental illness takes a certain kind of stillness, a mentality made up of kindness and patience, and a persistent reminder to try and understand so you can withstand sudden emotional outbursts stemming from only they know. I've seen one-on-one situations